Cherry is directed by the Russo brothers and stars Tom Holland as a man who is driven to become a bank robber. In the style of Forrest Gump, he narrates his journey through the military, through finding love, becoming a drug addict, and eventually robbing banks. This film was shot entirely in Cleveland, which is really awesome. It looked great. I recognized a lot of the places, and I know some people who worked on this movie, and I love you guys. Unfortunately, I did not love this movie, and I'm sorry if you're watching this review. Really wasn't my cup of tea. This film could have been great. I think Tom Holland is excellent in the movie. He gives a great performance and he is constantly engaging. He has so much charisma. His character is mostly interesting because of him. It's one of those characters that isn't very interesting on the page, and having an A-list actor like Tom Holland in the role really helps things a lot. This is based off of an autobiographical book by Nico Walker, who serves as a producer on this film. And while his life is obviously filled with a lot of trauma, tragedy, and choices he probably regrets, and is very happy to be in a position that he is now, it's not that interesting in this movie, mostly due to the Russo brothers, unfortunately. I really like their directing. I think they did a great job with the MCU. They made maybe the best, one of the best, certainly, with Winter Soldier, but they adopted a style in Cherry that is so flashy, so in your face, and so self-indulgent that the story didn't really come to life because I was constantly distracted by the way they helmed this movie. For instance, when Tom Holland is going through various procedures when he joins the military, he has to get a rectal exam. And you don't really know what we're looking at first, but the camera is deep in a pink, dark, cavernous hole. And you just see an eye looking through that hole. And then you realize they stuck a camera in his ass. Obviously, it was a prosthetic colon. But why? Just choices like that baffled me throughout the whole movie. But the real thing that absolutely tanks this movie for me is the narration. It is the most on-the-nose explanatory voiceover I've heard in a film in so long. I'll give you a perfect example. There's a character you know throughout the whole movie. He's one of Tom Holland's buddies. You see him go on some bank robberies. They drive around town. You've seen this character for like an hour to 90 minutes or so. You don't really know much about him. Later in the film, Tom Holland has a safe, and he really would like to get into that safe, so he calls his friend, the same guy you've known for like an hour or so in the movie. The narration then tells us, I called my buddy because he used to work for a locksmith. It's like, oh, interesting characterization that I've just been informed of. That's such a lazy approach to the way this narration could have gone. The unspoken rule with the voiceover, and it's not really unspoken actually, a lot of people say this, is that if you're going to have voiceover, have it enhance the story in a way that you could not communicate visually. The film also has a final shot that is so curious to me. It's one of the strangest miscalculations in tone or feel that I've experienced, and really the whole movie can be described that way. The final shot of the movie is right out of Nacho Libre, which probably is not what you expected me to say. But I couldn't help but think it. It looked like Nacho Libre. It just did. I'm sure I can't possibly be the only person on this planet that will think that. There's things to admire in Cherry. For the most part, the performances are all really strong. The Russo brothers are being extremely ambitious. They're taking a lot of risks, and I always admire that. Unfortunately, none of them really pay off. This film doesn't really have much of a story. It's basically guy falls into drugs after being disrespected by the military. Him and his girlfriend have problems, and he decides to rob banks. So it seems like the Russo brothers adopted this very flashy style that I guess was supposed to maintain your interest over an extremely bloated runtime, and it just didn't. The film also has a lot of attempts at themes and messages. There's an approach to the way we treat our veterans, but it is so minimal and barely discussed, and when it is discussed, it's usually voiceover, and so you don't really feel it, you're just being told it. Also, all the banks that he robs have titles like Shitty Bank or The Bank. To be honest, I don't really get it. I have no qualms in saying that I don't really get what they were going for. It wasn't clear to me. And I think that's one of the other reasons that the film just didn't work for me. There were so many approaches to a theme where I felt like they were just about getting interesting and then they would backtrack. I admire that they're clearly attempting to do something completely different than a big superhero extravaganza movie. I just don't think it worked for me. I'm going to give Cherry a C-. The film's opening in theaters this weekend, and then eventually it's going to be on Apple TV Plus in March, I believe. So look forward to that if you want to see it. I would suggest watching it if you can, just because it's weird. It's just not my thing. I don't know. It didn't work for me. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching, but I also want to give a big thank you to the sponsor for this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you, and it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. I would highly recommend checking out the classes Low Budget Filmmaking, Tips and Tricks for an Indie Look taught by Maddie Brown, and Cinematography Basics, Understanding Filmmaking Style taught by Zach Mulligan. And what I love about Skillshare is the personalization. You're learning from someone who's out there every day doing the thing they're teaching you to do. It means something to them, and you can always feel that when you're learning from a really great teacher. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description below will get a free premium membership so you can explore your creativity. So please do check out that link in the description below. Thank you guys as always for watching, and thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. You guys are the best, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.